When Morten Harket first soared into international stardom with his iconic voice echoing through the synth-heavy waves of Aha's Take On Me, few could have imagined the quiet strength behind the high notes. For decades, he has captivated millions across generations, not only with his incredible vocal range, but with a presence that fused vulnerability with charisma. But now, at 64 years old, Harket faces a new kind of challenge, one that cannot be sung away, choreographed, or avoided on tour schedules. In a heartfelt and unexpected revelation, the Norwegian pop legend disclosed that he has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological disorder that affects movement and speech. This wasn't announced during a global tour or as a scripted statement from a publicist. It was a quiet confession, tenderly shared with fans and followers alike. And just like that, the man known for breathless falsettos and timeless hooks now stands as a human being confronting something far more daunting than the pressure of pop stardom. To many, the announcement felt like a gut punch. Morten Harket has long symbolized the agelessness of 1980s pop icons, still performing with grace and vocal purity that seemed untouched by time. Even as trends evolved and music shifted from cassette to streaming, Harket remained, a presence on global stages, a gentle force in interviews, and a voice that aged like vintage vinyl, warm and familiar. For fans who grew up rewinding his music video over and over on MTV, or watching him perform in sold-out arenas across Europe and South America, the news came as more than a health update. It felt like the crumbling of an illusion. The notion that some icons remain forever strong was suddenly pierced by reality. Parkinson's doesn't care about Billboard charts or legacy albums. It doesn't pause for encores. Still, Harket's revelation didn't carry the tone of defeat. Instead, it was marked by a humble clarity. "I'm doing everything I can to slow it down," he told Norwegian media. There were no dramatics, just the voice of a man acknowledging what lies ahead. The diagnosis may have stunned his global audience, but Harket made it clear he intends to keep living, working, and performing as long as his body allows. His courage in sharing this deeply personal news offers not just transparency, but a bridge to others quietly facing similar battles. Suddenly, the lyrics from Aha's most poetic songs, "The sun always shines on TV," "Hunting high and low," "Stay on these roads," take on new meanings, now tinted by fragility, resilience, and grace. What's more, this revelation is not just a personal story, it's a cultural moment. The voice behind one of the most recognizable songs in pop history is now the face of a disease often wrapped in silence and stigma. As the world listens, Morten Harket is no longer just singing to us. He's showing us what courage sounds like when the music fades. But behind the brave public words lies a storm of uncertainty, both for Morten Harket and for those who have long idolized him. Parkinson's disease is not a condition that quietly sits in the background. It is an unwelcome intruder that touches everything: motor skills, emotional regulation, sleep, and speech. For a performer like Harket, whose entire identity has been built around control, precision, and the subtle mastery of his vocal instrument, the diagnosis presents an unthinkable challenge. While his fans took to social media with messages of support and admiration, those closest to the music industry understood the silent implications. Parkinson's doesn't simply take over, it chips away day by day, note by note. And for someone whose art depends on breath control and timing, even the smallest tremor can feel like a betrayal. For years, Morten had quietly battled physical issues: subtle tremors in the hands, stiffness in his legs, and increasing fatigue after performances. At first, it was chalked up to age or stress from touring. But behind the scenes, those changes began to impact the way he prepared for concerts, requiring more rest, more adjustments, and more care. Bandmates reportedly noticed changes, not just in performance routines, but in his demeanor. Quieter backstage, more introspective, a man seemingly at war with his own body. Still, ever the professional, Harket pressed on, delivering heartfelt renditions of Crying in the Rain and The Living Daylights, even as his body whispered signals of struggle. The mask of performance is powerful, especially for someone who has spent decades learning how to wear it gracefully. And yet, the physical battle is only half the story. The emotional toll of such a diagnosis can be brutal, especially for someone so deeply tied to public perception. For a man once voted most handsome man in Norway, and still admired for his almost ageless charm, there's a quiet agony in acknowledging decline. Harket has always been known for his stoic, almost philosophical disposition in interviews, often deflecting personal questions with poetic musings or thoughtful silence. But Parkinson's doesn't wait for the perfect metaphor. It forces truth to the surface, raw and unpolished. Friends and family have described his resilience as calm but relentless, saying he refuses pity and avoids dramatics. But make no mistake, there is a deep inner reckoning happening behind his blue eyes. Meanwhile, fans wrestle with their own grief, realizing that the voices of their youth are not invincible. For many, AHA was the soundtrack to their formative years, their heartbreaks, and their dreams. To watch Harket confront Parkinson's is to watch time catch up in real time. It is painful, it is intimate, and it is deeply human. While Morten has not announced any retirement plans, insiders suggest the band is already reevaluating touring schedules and adapting live sets to fit his evolving needs. The show may still go on, but the stakes have changed. And for the first time, the world is seeing the quiet conflict beneath the chorus. A fight not just for health, but for dignity, legacy, and voice. Now, as the weight of his diagnosis becomes more visible, Morten Harket enters what may be the most vulnerable phase of his public life. One that will test not only his physical endurance, but his emotional and artistic resolve. The gravity of Parkinson's is no longer theoretical. During a recent performance in Oslo, subtle signs became harder to miss. A slight delay between his breath and the note, a momentary tremor in his right hand while gripping the microphone, and a stiffness in his normally fluid gestures. The crowd, deeply loyal and emotionally invested, responded not with pity, but with thunderous applause, perhaps sensing what this performance truly cost him. Fans cried openly. Some sang louder to carry him through. The moment felt less like a concert and more like a collective act of reverence. It was no longer about the perfection of the voice. It was about the power of the man behind it. The turning point, emotionally and symbolically, came shortly after that show, when Harket appeared in a televised interview and spoke candidly about the future. He did not sugarcoat the reality. He admitted he doesn't know how long he'll be able to continue performing. "There are good days and bad ones," he said softly, "and I try to meet both with gratitude." He expressed more concern about how his condition might affect those around him, his bandmates, his family, and his audience, than about himself. That humility only deepened the public's response. Overnight, social media was flooded with tribute videos, cover songs, and emotional posts from fans sharing how his music had touched their lives. Hashtags like "Skisur with Morten" and "Isidore Voice of Courage" began trending across Europe. Meanwhile, inside AHA's inner circle, conversations have grown more urgent. Managers and crew members are now weighing options. Shorter set lists, fewer tour dates, or even virtual appearances that allow Harket to rest between performances. Musicians who once joked with him backstage now offer quiet, unwavering support. The band itself has reportedly rallied behind him, with co-founder Magne Furuholmen stating privately, "We will stand with Morten for as long as he wants to stand with us." That loyalty has only strengthened their bond, turning this chapter into something less about decline and more about defiance. A refusal to let illness define the legacy they built together. But beyond the technical logistics of tours and media schedules, something deeper is shifting. Morten Harket is no longer just a voice in pop music. He is becoming a symbol of endurance, honesty, and artistic courage, in the face of something that strips so many of those qualities. His diagnosis, while deeply personal, has unlocked a wave of collective reflection about aging, identity, and the fragile beauty of creation. As fans continue to fill venues, not knowing if each concert might be the last, every lyric feels heavier, every chorus more sacred. And in that weight lies the climax of Harket's journey. Not an ending, but a transformation. The man who once sang about being hunting high and low is now being hunted by time itself. And yet, he remains on stage, unshaken, defiant, and still singing. Today, as the music world watches with a mix of admiration and heartache, Morten Harket is writing a different kind of legacy. One rooted not in vocal acrobatics or chart-topping hits, but in vulnerability, strength, and authenticity. His journey with Parkinson's is no longer just a private battle. It has become a public statement on how to face the unknown with dignity. Though the disease may eventually challenge the full extent of his performance abilities, Harket continues to be active, choosing to face each day not with denial, but with intention. In recent weeks, he's reportedly begun working with neurologists, vocal coaches, and physical therapists to maintain both health and artistry. He's also started journaling privately, something friends close to him say may one day evolve into a memoir, not of stardom, but of survival. For fans, this phase of Harket's life has brought forth a collective awakening. No longer is their connection to him based solely on nostalgia or music. It's a bond strengthened by shared humanity. In fan forums and comment sections, the conversation has shifted. They no longer ask, "When is the next album?" Or, "Will he hit that high note again?" Now they ask, "How is he doing today?" And, "What can we learn from him?" That shift is profound. It reveals the real power of celebrity, not in its glamour, but in its ability to unite people around moments of truth. Harket's diagnosis has sparked increased interest in Parkinson's awareness campaigns across Europe and Latin America, especially among younger generations who had previously associated the disease only with silence or old age. The media, too, has taken note. Rather than reduce Harket's condition to a tragic end-of-career headline, many outlets have chosen to highlight his honesty and the grace with which he has embraced the public gaze. Documentary crews are reportedly in talks to follow Aha's next tour, not just as a musical event, but as an intimate portrayal of resilience in the spotlight. Mental health advocates have even praised Harket for reducing stigma, not just around illness, but around masculinity itself. His choice to be vulnerable, to speak softly about something painful, dismantles old archetypes of the unreachable rock star and replaces them with something much more powerful. A man in full acceptance of his changing body, his changing world, and his unchanged heart. And so, Morten Harket continues forward, not as a perfect voice, but as a profoundly human one. He may not always hit the same high notes. The stage lights may dim sooner than expected. But what will remain is something no diagnosis can erase. The courage to face reality with quiet strength, the grace to let others see you struggle, and the willingness to still show up, even when the song gets harder to sing. In doing so, he teaches us that greatness isn't found in avoiding hardship, but in singing through it. And for as long as he can, Morten Harket will keep singing.